Hey guys, welcome back. It's soon to be Dr. Nick.
And Miss Amanda.
So in our last video, if you missed it, we kind of talked a little bit about the different sort of approaches that we have for how we're going to go about our early retirement and why we're doing some of the things that we're doing. So if you want, you can go back and refer to that video, but in this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about the different types of accounts that we use and why they're so effective at what they do.
So there are a couple of different accounts we're going to talk about today. The Roth IRA, a traditional 401k, and an HSA. I know most people are familiar with a 401k as a lot of employers do offer them to the employees, but not so many of us might be familiar with the Roth IRA or even an HSA.
So the reason why we bring these up is that you have to understand that not all accounts are created equally, meaning that some of them have benefits to them, as in like tax benefits. So for example, a 401k, you save money up front in that you don't pay taxes on the income that is being contributed to that 401k, but then when you go to take it out later after it's grown, you get subjected to tax at that point. But still, you only have taxes at one end of it, as opposed to a Roth IRA, which is almost like the inverse. You take after-tax money, you put it into the Roth IRA, and then it actually will continue to grow. And when you go to take it out later, there's actually no taxes that you pay on that money. So it can just grow tax-free for retirement, which is why it's so good as a retirement account.
So let's go ahead and just take a couple of steps back and just tell you what those accounts really are in case you don't understand. So a 401k is something you would have through your job or employer where you can put into money into this account, and your employer will match what you're putting in up to a certain amount.
So a lot of different places will offer that employer match, but just to clarify, not all employers will do that. A lot of them do, and if they do, you 100% should take advantage of that because that's free money. That is literally a 100% return on your contribution, and nothing else in the world will guarantee you that.
Now, we're not saying they're going to match, $1 million, but they will match up to a certain amount of what you put in. And even if they do not match, this is still a great program to put money aside for when you do retire. Now, a Roth IRA is different. That's an individual retirement account that you can put money into yourself up to $6,000 a year that will grow in interest over the course of however long you have the account.
So that's another great point that you bring up about the interest that grows in the IRA. So an IRA is just a type of account. It's just a thing that you can put money into. And so if you want your money to grow and you want it to grow tax-free, then you have to think about what you want to put in the IRA or put in the account. So what a lot of people are doing and what we're doing is we're actually going to and have already started to put money aside into a total stock market index fund, basically investing in the stock market, but in like a very easy way. And then overall, the pattern is that the stock market kind of grows around 10% or so, give or take, every year. And that's how you're actually going to grow the money in the Roth IRA, as opposed to if you just had it sitting there, just, in the IRA, not invested in anything, just, then it actually wouldn't be doing anything. It wouldn't be growing. And the reason, again, that we're doing all of this, like we mentioned in our first video, is because if you are not investing your money, you're actually losing money. Because every year, slowly, inflation creeps up higher and higher, and the cost of goods and services actually increases. That's why, it costs you a little bit more for a gallon of milk, or that's why, the same, service that you may have costed like X dollars last year, it may cost a little bit more, and again, that's due to inflation.
And can you tell them a little bit about the percentage of increase within the Roth IRA that we currently have?
So currently, this has been a weird last year with, the pandemic and everything, but we're actually doing a little bit better than 10%. Maybe one of these days we can do like a portfolio breakdown for how everything is going. But generally speaking, sometimes you do better, like we were saying, of that 10% growth, and then sometimes it's a little bit worse. But on average, it ends up being about 10% growth. And again, what we're doing is we're putting money into a total stock market index. And what that means, an index fund is basically just a single place that you can plop your money down, and it actually is going to take the entirety of the stock market, all the different types of companies. Instead of having to buy Apple and buy Tesla and buy Starbucks and buy all these things, it actually just is one place where you put in your investment, and it is encompassing everything that takes into account the stock market. And so that means that you're actually getting a little bit of protection there. It's not as good as if you put money into, let's say, Tesla, and Tesla went up 500%, but it's also better because if one company does poorly, it's safer, right? So that's why we're doing it in that way.
Yes, and one of my favorite things about a Roth IRA is that after 7 years, whatever you have in there doubles.
Yeah, and so that's not particular to, let's say, an IRA in general, but it just kind of goes to show you the power of compounding interest, in the sense that if you have money growing, like let's say 10% because of our index fund, as you look over the long term, like about every 7 years or so is about right, is you can literally see your invested money double from when you started. And that's because the money that grows every year then grows on itself. And then that money grows on itself and continues so on and so forth. And before you know it, if you start, 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, you can see some significant returns on your investment and be set up pretty well for retirement.
Now, the last account that we want to talk a little bit about is a HSA, which is a health savings account. There are a few different rules to be able to, apply and be approved for an HSA. You do have to have an approved insurance, but it is an account where you can essentially funnel money for medical emergencies, and and just save money in there. That also accrues interest, I believe, correct?
So it can, right? And so like Miss Amanda is saying, you can do anything you want in these accounts. They're just accounts. They're places you can put money. So you can put just straight cash in there, and then it's not doing anything. But a smart investor would use this tax advantaged account and put it into something that is growing interest, and then when the time comes down the road, you'll notice that your investment has actually grown because of that compounded interest. And like we were saying, you do have to have a qualifying insurance in order to start the HSA. It's a little bit trickier compared to the other two that you could just start right away. But it is double tax advantage, so it is probably the best account that you can get. What does that mean? That means that you put pre-tax money in, don't pay taxes, and when you go to take it out, you also don't pay taxes. So in that sense, it's probably the best kind of account that you could have, and it is a little bit trickier because even though we say qualified medical expenses, it really is supposed to be for medical expenses. It's just that a lot of different things, you'd be surprised, qualify as a medical expense. And if you don't end up needing it, you don't need that money, cool. It's just growing. It's just growing and growing. And before you know it, again, you're set up for retirement.
And, the goal is to funnel money into all of these different places,
Exactly.
not just one. You want to put some money in your 401k as much as you can. Yep. And if you can get an employer match, you want them to match the maximum. Also, you want to put your maximum every year into your Roth IRA. And if you have an HSA, you can also just keep funneling money into that. The goal is to have it across many different platforms. I don't know if platforms is the correct word to say, but across many different accounts.
Yeah. And so that kind of goes into like your portfolio, right? How are you putting your money away in different places? And we can definitely talk a little bit more about like portfolio breakdowns, but these are just different types of accounts that we think that everyone should have, and that we are actively working on ourselves to set up for early retirement and financial independence. And so we figured, we'd share it with you guys, and in later videos we could probably break down how we go about specifically doing those things as well.
Yes, and just keep in mind, it's better to start early. The earliest that you can start putting money into one of these, or multiple, is the best.
Yeah.
Because again, now your money you make now is going to be worth more than it would be in 10 years.
Absolutely. And that is one of the key things about retirement, or retiring early, or whenever you want to retire, is that you have to realize that money now is not the same as money later. The money that you have now, because it has the ability to be invested, is significantly worth more than the same money 20 years from now when you're going to retire. And so, we hope to show you maybe in the future what the power of compounded interest is, and the time value of your money. And we hope that that's something that you guys would want to see and enjoy. And if so, follow us along for the journey. We'll do our best to keep you guys as educated as possible, as we're doing the same things ourselves. And we'd love to have you guys.
Bye.